So if we look at the drawdown we had in the S&P 500, it may not seem like a lot, but if we actually look at it not in nominal term, but in real terms adjusted to inflation, this is one of the worst years we've ever had in the history of the entire stock market. So if you're still in the market, you haven't called the stock market a scam, well, congratulations, but I hope you're prepared for what's about to come, because despite this big drawdown, I still personally think that we are far from a bottom on the S&P 500. I'm gonna share my reasons why, what are the signs I'm looking for, and kind of what's my personal target on the S&P. Now, in every bubble we had in history, there was always a couple of stocks or assets that were the highlight of the bubble. For example, in the 1970s, we had something called the Nifty 50 stocks, and those were the biggest 50 companies in the United States. And the whole thing with those was that no matter what price you pay for those stocks, if you just buy and hold, you're gonna make money in the long term. And eventually the PE dropped from 66 to 11. Okay, this was in the Nifty 50s. Of course, in the 99, we had the dot-com stocks that were the highlight of the bubble. And the current one of those highlights we have right now is actually Cassie Wood's ARK. In fact, if you compare her ETF to the dot-com bubble type of stocks, you could pretty much see the same correlation, how they went up and how they crashed all the way down. And just remember, now it may seem obvious that ARK Innovation is one of the highlights of the bubble, but it wasn't like that 8 or 9 months ago. You could not speak a single word against Cassie Wood or ARK. Even Michael Burry tried to warn us, but they called him a boomer, and he doesn't understand innovation. Why? Because this time is different. This is how it is every single time. And me personally, I made a video on it like 8 months ago, saying that Cassie Wood's performance was largely due to zero rates. And whenever this changes, the stocks are gonna go down. And I got a lot of dislikes, a lot of hate. And after 1 week, ARK Innovation made a new all-time high. And somebody wrote a comment which I kept for my own memories. And he wrote to me, "I'm glad all your videos are time-stamped. Cassie Wood is killing it. Another record day for Tesla, and Michael Burry was wrong." This is just to show you the magnitude of the bubble that we were actually in. When you're in a bubble, you just don't see the pin and you think everything is fine. But despite this bad performance on the ETF, the fund is still seeing net inflows, believe it or not. Investors have added a net 933 million to ARK Innovations this year through April 26, including about 224 million over the past months. Now, when you have something that's the highlight of the bubble, and this fund is still seeing net inflows, is that a sign of a bottom? I don't think so. Normally at the bottom, those stocks, nobody wants them, nobody wants to touch them, and you start seeing net outflows. But yet Cassie Wood is still seeing net inflows because many investors are still buying the dip. Now, whenever we start seeing net outflows, that could change the narrative a bit, that kind of show us that many investors are really getting bearish and are giving up on those stocks. Now imagine when Cassie Wood gets outflows and she's forced to actually sell those stocks, what's going to happen to them? They're going to go down even more than they did. And this is not just ARK Innovation. Of course, we have Tesla stock. And again, don't get mad at me, but I hear a lot of Tesla investors saying, no matter what price you buy Tesla at, 600, 800, 1,000, 1,200, it doesn't matter because over the next 10 years, it's going to 10 trillion or 20 trillion or whatever. And that may happen, but it may also not happen. And Tesla is one of those stocks, and it's still holding the $900 level, sometime even above 1,000. And this also shows me that we are not close to a bottom in terms of investor sentiment. And of course, one of the biggest ones for investor sentiment is actually Bitcoin, because almost everybody owns Bitcoin. Well, it's the same thing with Bitcoin. If you remember, just like the Nifty 50, it doesn't matter what you buy Bitcoin at, 20,000, 50,000, 60,000, it doesn't matter because it's going to 2 million. or it's going to $10 million in the future. I never heard any Bitcoin promoter claims that Bitcoin is maybe a little bit expensive or maybe you should take a profit. No, you never take a profit. You buy and you hold forever until we hit 8 trillion or 10 trillion or whatever. It may happen, but it may also never happen. And it's the same story. Now in 2018, when we had much less problems than we had, in this tightening cycle, Bitcoin went from 20,000 to 4,000 a coin. And many people actually forget that. Now, where's Bitcoin right now? Bitcoin is still at 38,000. Look at the chart, it's pretty much amazing. Now, if you're a Bitcoin investor or not, do you think that's a complete bottom in terms of investor sentiment and the market? For me, I don't think so. Now, if we look at the valuation, this is what really gave me my 3,400 to 3,500 price target. If you look at the S&P's PE, after 2000, since the Federal Reserve took over the stock market and bailed us out every time, we had pretty much higher PEs than we had before. So I used this estimate and I estimated that a fair PE on the S&P is around 15 to 16 PE. It doesn't mean that it can't go lower, but I just assumed a 16 to 17 PE I think is fair. Now the EPS on the S&P is around $204. So if you just time it by a 17 PE, this is 3,400 on the S&P. If you time it by a 15 PE, this is 3,000 on the S&P. This is just to show you how overpriced we are. And I don't know about you, but I don't think 15 or 16 or 17 PE is too much for something like the S&P 500. I think it's a pretty fair number. So between 3,000 to 3,500, this is where we are likely going for us to have healthy future stock market return, which means there's maybe 20 to 25% more downside on the S&P 500. So this is why I'm not buying very heavy right now. I'm sticking to the things I have and I'm just waiting for the right time. I'm not trying to time the market. I'm just using my own timing. For me, whenever I feel that we are close to a bottom, this is when I'm gonna start buying heavily in my holdings. So this is what I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, please press the like button and maybe consider subscribing. So I hope to see you in another video.